Hey, all you beautiful people out there, and welcome to my channel. If you're coming back, thank you very much. I really appreciate you. If you hear a bit of humming in the background, please forgive me. I've got a fan going. It's 90 degrees here, and I don't have an air conditioner, number one, because it doesn't get hot up here except maybe 1 or 2 months out of the year. Number one. Number two, even if I did have an air conditioner, I can't afford to run it. So, you know, uh, I am trying my best. I've got my headphones on, so hopefully um, that takes out some of the background noise. And I also have my hand over the microphone of the headset. Nevermore, can you hear me? Squawked the raven, nevermore. Okay, so let's just get into it. Today we're talking about Gene Kim again. Oh my god. And we're doing the same one. We're we're on the same one that I did last time. So if you want to hear my thoughts about like hey Selena, can you hear me okay? Selena, hang on. Is that better? I had my fan on because it's like 90 degrees here. Luckily, it doesn't get humid here in the summertime, but and I don't have any air, but even if I did, I couldn't afford to run it. Anyway, um, like I said, we're going to check out Gene Kim and we're going back to the one that I was doing last time. So if you want to get my thoughts on the first part of his blabbering, you can do that with um, my first one of my first review of him. So anyway, let's get going. Is it just me, or is he insulting the intelligence of his audience? Because, I mean, that's just the meaning of that is self evident. You don't need to explain things to people like they're little children unless they are little children. Jesus fucking Christ. All right, let's go on. Oh, let me share. This guy doesn't really care. about copyright and shit. So which is good. That's why my Joel Osteen was cut. It was my Joel Osteen. It was originally like an hour long. Hey, Big Zebra. But I had to cut it down to 20 minutes. Well, YouTube cut it down to 20 minutes because good old Joel decided to make a copyright claim, not a copyright strike, but a copyright claim, which means that all of my revenue would have gone to him. And there's no way I'm filling that guy's pockets. So, anyway, moving on. Oh, hang on, I got to mute.
City, he reasons. Oh, let me escape thither. Is it not a little one? And my soul shall live. So he's saying right here, oh, let me escape toward that place. So that's the idea about there and hither kind of combined together, like over there. Let me escape over there, because isn't it a little one? It's not that big. And I will be able to live, survive. Usually the word soul, when it is used, it's referring to the real you. It's referring to the person, the real person, your personality, your personal actual self. So
again, we have more condescension from this guy. You know, he's explaining every little detail like his audience is a bunch of 2 and 3-year-olds. Come on, dude. Also, let's see. I want to make another point. I'm sorry, my brain's a bit fried today. Hang on. Yeah, right, Big Zebra. That's why I'm doing this, because I thought it was hilarious. All right, let me figure out what I was gonna say.
So he's saying, I will be able to live. I'll be able to survive. That way I don't die up there in the mountains at verse 19, he says. Now, I want you to look at the book of Galatians, chapter 5. Galatians, chapter 5. Now, you have to know that that is the devil's trick, and you should not fall for that. Look at Galatians.
Oh, yeah, I remember what I wanted to say. He was talking about the soul earlier, you know, and he's saying, he just said, I am not kidding you. He just said the soul is the personality. Well, why the fuck are you giving a different name to personality when we already have a word for it? It's called personality, you know? And come on, this isn't hard. All right, moving on.
Chapter 5. Lot, again, perfectly demonstrates a saved worldly Christian. He is not a Christian. Christians did not exist in this time. I don't know why some onliners there don't get that memo, and then they're always accusatory. They say, Lot's not a Christian. What are you talking about? My people didn't get that impression. What they were learning is that he pictures what a worldly Christian would act. So I don't know why people get upset about that. So let's look at Galatians chapter 5. And notice right here, worldly Christian you, don't follow the example of Lot by thinking, when God says, I have to take that thing away from you, and you go, God, don't take this thing away, or let me do this thing.
Okay, so first of all, he is This is why I said talking in circles, because this guy loves talking in circles. In fact, this guy loves gematria, right? And anyway, it he's a hoot. He really is. Thank you, Gene Kim. You give me a lot of uh, entertainment value, you know. But anyway, moving on.
Because isn't it little? Let me just do this little thing. Let me skip one little Sunday. Let me skip one little day of Bible reading. Let me do this little 1 hour with my time in sin. It's just a little job, God. It's not
Guilt. And I did a I don't know whether it was a live stream or if it was just a regular video on what I call the Gods complex. Um, and it's an acronym that I just made up. It's let's see, guilt, obligation, um, that's all I can remember right now. But anyway, guilt leads to obligation, right? Well, he's trying to guilt people into being obligated to this being that he insists exists. Okay, moving on.
a big deal, this job, what I'm doing. I mean, it takes away just a little bit of my time away, probably, but I'll go to church here and there and I'll give the offering. Think about the offering. We'll go way up, Lord, if you give me this job. That's the mentality. Look at Galatians chapter 5. Notice at verse 9, a little, see, leaven. What happens with a little leaven? Leaveneth the whole lump. You got to realize it only takes a little bit of sin for it to grow, boom, like that. That's what sin does. Okay, go back to Genesis. Go back to Genesis 19.
I want you to see what he's doing. No, not debt, Selena. You can find it. Just type in God's complex, GODS complex into the search on my channel, and it'll bring it up. But anyway, I want you to see what he's doing here. He's using eisegesis, which you should not do. Nobody should use eisegesis, okay? to 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 show you just how ridiculous eisegesis is, let's take Harry Potter, okay? Okay. Um let's take Harry Potter, right? Okay. So you've read the first book of Harry Potter, and the second book of Harry Potter comes out, right? And it's been a long time since I've read the Harry Potter books, you know. So I cannot remember what's in what book, okay? It's been a long time. I mean, a long time since I've read them. But this is like taking something from the first Harry Potter book and pairing it with something from the third Harry Potter book. Okay? That's exactly what he's doing here. Except he's not exactly using the Harry Potter series. It's more like using the first book of Harry Potter and comparing it to something in Macbeth. So, so that's what eisegesis is, and it's absolutely mind-blowing that people would engage in this because it makes no fucking sense. All right, going on.
Return to Genesis chapter 19. So don't mess around with sin. A little bit of sin increases to bigger sins. Didn't you learn that before already with Lot's case? Remember, he didn't go inside Sodom at the beginning. What did he do? He went to the plains of Jordan at the beginning, right? But then just a little bit of sin, in parentheses, is actually quote unquote little. It's not actual sin. This little, it means this. It means boom. That's what it means. It's big. But you're so blinded from seeing the big because you keep looking at the little. And then when you actually hit the big, you still think it's little, right, Lot?
So this is actually one of Jesus' teachings. You know, a little sin is just as bad as a big sin. You know, in other words, lying, even if it's a little white lie, and is just as bad as killing someone. What the fuck are you on about? All right, moving on.
That's why you would go so far as to say, Lot, here are my two virgin daughters. Why don't you take them, not the angels? See, you go that far. You go that far. Now let's look.
No, that's not why Lot offered his virgin daughters. Jesus fucking Christ, I wish people would learn their history and archaeology and all that shit before they tried teaching this crap. Okay. In the ancient Near East, and I think I've said this before when I covered the Lot story in Genesis. Okay. But in the ancient Near East, there was a law of hospitality. And if you brought strangers into your home, which these quote unquote angels would have been strangers in Sodom, okay? If you brought strangers into your home, the law of hospitality stated that you were obligated to protect them at all costs. Okay? Even if it meant offering your daughters to the men of the city. Exactly. Exactly, Nevermore. Yes, Lena, it does. So, anyway, all right. So he's like way off base. And like I said, I don't even know how anybody can even try to teach this stuff without understanding it themselves. But people do. All right, let's go on.
Look at verse 21. And he said unto him, so Lot is going to speak to the angel. See, I have, God is speaking to Lot. See, I have accepted thee concerning this thing also, that I will not overthrow this city, for the which thou hast spoken. So when I say God is speaking to him, obviously, this is not the angel of the Lord, because the angel of the Lord, he was talking to Abraham, and then the two angels went down. But a lot of times you're going to notice when the angels are speaking, they're speaking on the behalf of the Lord, on God. So it could be, so I'm not saying it is God speaking here at verse 21, but you have to keep that possibility open. If you want a proper interpretation of Scripture, it's always important to keep possibilities open unless they're plainly wrong in Scripture, okay? So the angel speaks to Lot. All right, see here, I accepted what you said concerning this thing also, concerning this matter in going to the city of Zoar, running away. And I won't overthrow Zoar, he's saying. I won't overthrow the small city, for the which thou hast spoken, meaning about this city you referred to. I'm not going to overthrow it. Haste thee, escape thither, for I cannot do anything till thou become thither. Meaning, hurry up. You hurry on up now. Escape over there to that little city, Zoar, that Lot wanted to flee to. Because I won't be able to do anything until you go over there, until you come to that city there. Therefore, the name of the city was called Zoar. So hence, from that day on, that little city was called Zoar. Now, that's very interesting that I want you to note here. The little city that Lot wanted to flee to, it means little. That's what Zoar means. Now, notice that you can preach a very good sermon out of this. Yeah. So, Christian, what is your Zoar? I think that's a good sermon. Do you want me to park it over there?
Okay, I was following him up to this point, but I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about? I get that he says Zoar means little. I have no idea. I really don't, and I really don't care. But my point is, what is your Zoar? Gene, that doesn't make any sense. My God, listen to yourself, dude. All right, moving on.
There, and we don't have to finish the rest of the chapter. I can preach a whole sermon on that one. What is your Zoar? Zoar means little, and that's why you can't go all the way for the Lord. If it was called Zoar from that time hence, see that? From that time hence, that means before it wasn't called Zoar. So there are two questions right here. One, what's the previous name? What was the previous name? And two, isn't it a city before Lot claimed the territory for himself? If you recall at the book of Genesis, usually cities are named after the people who first land on that territory, who claim that territory for themselves. So how can Lot do that when there's already a territory there, when there are already inhabitants there? How was he able to take over that city and name it after himself? So that's going to be interesting. We're going to look at. So who's the owner? Now, I don't know of anyone else who taught this, so just take what I have with a grain of salt and don't post all over online saying, what a heretic, oh, he's so messed up, he's getting crazy. No, it's because, one, perhaps maybe you're not reading your Bible as carefully as you should. Okay? Me, because I'm trying to carefully read the word, every word, I want to find out the meaning behind every word.
Gene, if you were really reading the Bible carefully, you would be an atheist. I mean, my God, man. The Bible has made more atheists than anybody or anything else. Yes, he is patronizing. Very patronizing. Hey, limited light. All right, moving on.
There's nothing wrong with doing that. And even if it's a guesswork, then at least I say that it is guesswork. But I am trying to find the meaning behind the scriptures. Are you? Or do you not find the meaning yourself and you just easily accuse? So I hope you're not that tight. Now, when we look at Genesis chapter 19 and verse 22, what was the city called before? That's why it makes sense if you look at Genesis 14. Now remember, the 5 kings versus the 4 kings, right?
Okay, I have no idea why he's so obsessed with what the city was named before. What does it matter? Moving on.
Do you remember that story? Now remember the 5 kings, they were alliance with Sodom and Gomorrah. So it was Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboam, and remember Zoar, right? So then we got a question here. Why is it that at Genesis 19, we see here at Genesis 19, therefore it was called Zoar, like from henceforth. Wasn't it called Zoar before? Actually, Genesis 14 hints that may not be the case. Look at Genesis chapter 14, verse 2. That these made war with Bera, king of Sodom, and with Bersha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, and Shemeber, king of Zeboam, and the king of what? Bela, which is Zoar. Now, why did the author of Genesis write that way? Because the author of Genesis is Moses. He knew that it's called Zoar at his.
No, Moses did not write the book of Genesis. Moses probably did not even exist. Come on, dude. You're supposed to be an apologist. You're supposed to know this shit. Anyway, moving on.
Day. But then he's trying to point out at that timeline, it was called Bela. And here's another example. I want you to also look at verse 8. Verse 8. And there went out the king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboam, and the king of what? Bela, the same is Zoar. In parentheses, like that's Bela during that time is what you know as Zoar. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Okay, so then it was called Bela before. But then who's the owner? That's the question. Because undoubtedly there were inhabitants there at that time.
What does this have to do with anything? Seriously, what does this have to do with anything? Oh, by the way, my debunk is up for my members, and it'll be coming out tomorrow for everyone. I just wanted to let you know. You can become a member for as low as 99 cents a month, people, if you want my debunks early. And as soon as I get enough members, I'll be doing members-only live streams. So, you know, but only if you are in a financially secure situation. I want to emphasize that. Okay, now let's go on. I have no idea what this guy's just I don't know. He probably does, Lady Selena. He probably does. All right, let's go on.
So then it's not like Lot got first dibs on that city and called it for himself. Well, we know it was originally called Bela, right? If it was originally called Bela, why was Lot able to change it to Zoar? How was that done? So then here's the guesswork. Go back to Genesis 19 and then Isaiah 15. I want your hand to go to two places. Isaiah 15, and then I also want you to go to 7. So the firstborn of Lot.
Okay, so excuse me, but shouldn't you just be preaching the unadulterated word of God? Why are you putting in your guesswork? Of course, it's all fucking guesswork with these people, but they don't understand that. But I mean, if you want to, you know, preach the unadulterated word of God, which it isn't the word of God, but that's a story for another day. Why don't you preach the unadulterated word of God and forget this nonsense about guesswork?
And the firstborn bare a son and called his name Moab. the same is the father of the Moabites unto this day. Okay, so we can see right here that the owner is going to be Lot, or at the very least, Lot's offspring. Then how did he get that city, right? How was he able to get that city and name it Zoar when it was previously called Bela? Here's the interesting part. I want you to look at Genesis chapter 19, verse 30. And Lot went up out of Zoar and dwelt in the mountain, and his 2 daughters with him, for he feared to dwell in Zoar. Wait a minute, isn't this contradictory? When we look back at Genesis chapter 19, verse 20 and 22, remember Lot said, I want to go to Zoar because I'm afraid of the mountains. But right here, he's saying, I'm afraid of Zoar, so I'm going to go to the mountains. What happened?
Nice job rebutting your own book, Gene. Nice work pointing out self-contradictions in your own fucking book. Awesome. All right, going on. Now let's see what his explanation is for this. His apologetic is for this.
Happened. He changed his mind. He changed his mind. You can easily guess why, because we're going to later find out, if you look at the context and the flow of it, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, that whole context is God overthrowing the cities and the surrounding territories. And the judgment is so fierce that Lot's wife was even killed herself. So because this is so horrifying and scary to him, think about it. If you're like, evacuate the premises of San Francisco,
and you worship this monster, you worship this monster and encourage other people to worship this monster too. A monster that would kill a woman. You are a sick fuck. All right, moving on. Oh, before we move on, I want to point out he didn't even blink when he said that. This religion is so messed up, and it messes with people's minds so much that they think that God killing people is a good thing. All right, moving on.
and then the whole community and the surrounding plains was just burned down to the ground because of God's anger. The San Andreas Fault, where it's under, just split, and hell just busted wide open. I wouldn't be surprised one of the gates of hell is the San Andreas Fault where it's at. You know, if we believe the lava comes from hell, right? So it stands to reason. So
This guy is off the rails. Lava comes from hell? No, it comes from the mantle. Anybody with a third grade education would know that, but apparently Gene doesn't have a third grade education. Wonder how he got his PhD then. Anyway, moving on.
then if hell breaks loose, which is what happened to Sodom, and I'm going to show you later, and the surrounding territories, do you feel comfortable to be at a city that's very close to San Francisco, especially if they practice its beep, beep, beep practices? No. If this little nearby city copycatted this major city that burned to the ground in its lifestyle, and then it showed the anger of the Lord and just burned everything to the
Oh my fuck, it had nothing to do with their lifestyle. God was angry because they weren't making hospitable gestures toward their guests. How many times do I have to say that? Ugh. Now you know why I don't take this guy seriously. Why I don't give my serious debunks to him. Because he's just spouting out nonsense. Of course, most people in the Christian community spout out nonsense. Not so much the progressives, but certainly the conservative Christians and the YEC. Yeah, Selena. All right, moving on.
The ground and melted it, you would be scared and you'd run away too. So think about it. It's very possible that the Lord, he may have destroyed the territory of Zoar later on, or the territory of Zoar, the inhabitants, they somehow got away because they got scared too.
Okay. It says in the Bible that fire came from heaven. So that sounds more like a meteorite to me. But these people didn't even witness the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. It was already destroyed by the time um, the Israelites discovered it. So they just made up a story saying why it was destroyed. Come on, Jesus. All right, moving on.
So then Lot was able to claim that territory, or at least his offspring after him, because maybe the daughters want to get away from the hermit life and enter the cities, go back to the cities. It may have been possible they all went down there. Because you can tell that Lot's daughters, when they went to the mountains, that there's a practice at verse 31, 32. It shows there all their life, their happiness in you was a sodomite lifestyle. It was the San Francisco lifestyle. I want to go back over there. I mean, Castro Lane over there, it's so beautiful when you look at it. A bunch of beep over there, but man, it's just so beautiful. I just want to go back over there. So it stands to reason all this. But that's only a theory, but it's very interesting. Okay, go back to verse 23 now. Genesis 19:23. Let's continue on. Continuing on. Now, what happened once they were trying to go to Zoar? The sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zoar. Particular wrath of God, that's all fiery. The fiery wrath of God, which is in Armageddon, when he comes down at his second advent. So when he comes down at the second advent, or otherwise called
Oh my fuck, there is no second advent. Will you please stop saying there's a second advent? You're building up hope that's never gonna come. Ever. There is no second advent. Ew. I'm sorry, Lisa. It's 86 here now. It's going down. The temperature's going down. But it was 90. It was up to 90 today. Yeah, I always wondered that, Limited Light. I mean, if they really believe this shit, right? Shouldn't it be called the third advent, the third coming of Christ? Because, you know, according to Christians, you've got the first coming, which was around 2,000 years ago, give or take, right? Okay, so then he, according to the Christians, he died and rose again. So wouldn't that be the second advent? Me neither, Selena. So wouldn't the coming in the future be the third advent? What? Of course, I understand all this bullshit because I used to be in this bullshit. Some of his bullshit I don't understand at all, but a lot of it I do. So let's keep going.
Called Armageddon, he opens up hell, just like what he did with Sodom and Gomorrah, that I'm going to show you later on, but not now. But the point is that in the second advent, he comes down in his wrath and fiery fury, and actually it turns into hell itself. So this is a good picture of that, Sodom and Gomorrah, of his second advent. But with Lot and his daughters fleeing, it's a perfect example of actually escaping such wrath. So hence we get a post-tribulation rapture, or a pre-wrath rapture. You might say, wait a minute, I thought you believe in pre-tribulation rapture. Yeah, I do. It shows how limited people's knowledge of the scriptures are, which is very sad. The simple answer is there's a rapture before the tribulation, and there's a rapture sometime after the tribulation. And I've given you videos demonstrating that. I'm not going to do a whole teaching on that, because I just want to concentrate only on Genesis 19. So let's focus on this post-tribulation rapture part here.
There is no tribulation. Give it a break. Jesus fucking Christ. You people will make me sick. Talking about how people are going to suffer. What kind of human being wants people to suffer? Anyway, moving on.
First of all, notice it's when the sun rose. Okay, what watch of the day is this? You're going to look at Mark 13. Mark 13. Look at the book of Mark, chapter 13. Sunrise in the Bible is also known as the fourth watch. The fourth watch. And for people who like to time the tribulation or even the rapture itself, they go by the watches, which is very important. So notice how in the scriptures that sunrise is also known as the fourth watch. Okay, thank you so much. All right, so notice that we're going to look at Mark chapter 13. The Bible reads at verse 35, watch ye therefore, for you know not when the master of the house cometh. The context right here is when Jesus comes down. At even, first, or at midnight, second, or at the cock crowing, third, or in the what? Morning, fourth. So we see right here the morning is known as the fourth watch. Now I want you to also turn to Luke 17. Luke 17. Now notice when Jesus talks about the post-tribulation rapture, he uses the example of Lot. Now, I've taught you in Genesis chapter 5 a really strong picture for the pre-tribulation rapture. And it's not Noah, it's Enoch. It's Enoch. Noah pictures more of that post-tribulation rapture, of a saint undergoing through the tribulation in the sheet and the wrath of God during judgment. But he's able to...
I have no idea what he's talking about. I have no idea what he's talking about. I mean, this is out there even for me. I mean, seriously, I have no idea what he's talking about. Let's see if we can figure it out, right? Okay. I don't think so, Lisa. I don't think he believes this crap. I don't think so. All right, moving on.
to survive it, just like a tribulation has to endure, survive to the end to be saved. Matthew 24. So I've given a little bit examples of that. Enoch, he's during at a time of the last days, right? When the signs of the tribulation, with those Nephilim, Satan on earth, and everything going on, those last moments of that. So Enoch perfectly pictures the church entering into those last days phases. But then once he's raptured out, the actual end time hits, and then Noah starts to build. And then when Noah starts to build, he survives the wrath of God. So Noah pictures a good example of the post-tribulation rapture escaping the wrath of God. Who do you think also is another example? Is Lot. Look at Luke 17. Look at the book of Luke, chapter 17. Notice at verse 26. And as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be also in the days of the Son of Man. What is this referring to? This is referring to his coming. In verse, let's see right here, 22. And he said unto the disciples, the days will come when ye shall desire to see one of the days of the Son of Man, and ye shall not see it. Verse 24, for as the lightning that lighteneth out of the one part under heaven shineth unto the other part under heaven, so shall also the Son of Man be in his day. So notice right here, this is no doubt the coming of Jesus Christ. That's the language it's referring to. But then he uses the example of Noah at verse 26 and 27, right? And then Lot at verse 28. Likewise also as it was in the days of Lot, they did eat, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, they builded. But the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. Even thus shall
I want you to notice what he just said. He just contradicted himself. Earlier in his ranting and raving, he said that lava destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, right? But he just read from the Bible that fire and brimstone destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, which sounds a lot like a meteorite to me. I have no idea, Selena. Maybe I can find something on his channel about that. All right, moving on.
shall it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. So notice right here, just like when Jesus Christ is going to reveal himself at the second advent, it's going to be the same thing like the days of Lot. So then there is a remnant that escapes, right? But then notice right here a rapture at verse 34. I tell you, in that night there shall be two men in one bed. The one shall be taken and the other shall be left. Two women shall be grinding together. The one shall be taken and the other left. Two men shall be in the field. The one shall be taken and the other left. Notice right here, this is a famous passage used for the rapture. One is taken while the other is left behind, they would say. But this passage is not referring to the church being raptured. A lot of Christian churches use that passage mistakenly for themselves. The Left Behind series uses that. Thief in the Night infamously uses text the wrong way as well. This text supports the pre-wrath, the post-tribulation argument. It is a rapture for the tribulation saint. But this is not for the Christian church. The Christian church has their own rapture, which I'm not going to expound it here. And please, I'm sick and tired. Don't throw in a comment about, what about this passage? What about that one? Trying to debunk pre-trib. I'm not doing that in this video. Why don't you not be lazy? Look at my other videos on pre-tribulation rapture. Simple. Okay, go to Genesis 19. Genesis 19. So we see that verse 23 perfectly pictures a post-tribulation rapture, pre-wrath rapture for the tribulation saint. Now verse 24, then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah.
Okay, I think I understand what he's saying about being both pre-trib and post-trib. I think what he's saying is, and I don't know this for sure, okay? This is just a guess on my part. He's so bad at getting his ideas across, okay? But this is my best guess as to how he could be pre-trib and post-trib rapture at the same time. Okay, so my guess is that the Christians that are Christian before the tribulation starts are raptured, which would be the pre-trib rapture, okay? But it also says in Revelation, not that I believe it, but it also says in Revelation that there are going to be people who quote unquote get saved. In other words, become Christians during the tribulation. And so those people get raptured after the tribulation and before the quote unquote wrath of God. That's the best I can make from his rambling, okay? But I think that's what he's getting at, but I'm not sure. Like I said, at this point, he's just rambling. But this is Gene Kim, right? What do we expect from Gene Kim? All right, moving on.
Gomorrah, brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. Okay, so God is raining. So it's like from above, Sodom and Gomorrah. Brimstone and fire. From where? From God. And it came out of heaven. So it comes out from above. Verse 25, and he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities and that which grew upon the ground. Notice he overthrew, so meaning that he destroyed the cities, all those cities, and then the entire plain. Remember, that was where Lot originally wanted to stay, the plains of Jordan. God burned that one to the ground. And then all the inhabitants who lived in the city as well. And anything that grew on the ground. So God destroyed it to a fare thee well. Basically, he just destroyed it all. Oh, isn't this beautiful how we're preserved?
Sounds more like a meteorite and maybe an earthquake. There's no supernatural explanation needed, dude. Fire from heaven, meteorite, bam. I guess you could say a comet, because a comet will burn up in the atmosphere. But a meteorite would be more of a rock, which would probably be more damaging than a comet. All right, moving on.
Preserving Mother Nature in the city of Berkeley, and God don't care. Boom, he destroys it. Why not just those wicked blankety blanks, you know, which I'm not going to say because probably Mr. System there might catch it. So I'll just call it blankety blank, okay? Why don't you just burn down the blankety blank, Lord? Why do you have to burn down the beautiful trees and everything? Because it disgusts God. It disgusts God so much because anything that has to do with sin, even the things that touch it, he's so holy he cannot stand it. That's God's nature. So people don't understand God's wrath.
No, Gene, you can't stand it because they're different from you. They're different from you. And you can't stand that because you can't stand people being different from you. All right, moving on.
They only emphasize his love so much they forget his wrath. If you understand his wrath, you Christians would be more careful with how you live too, and not give the excuse like Lot, it's a little. You saw what God did with little, right? Even just the plains of Jordan itself. We have to share that same anger against sin with the Lord. And if you ever wonder why you always fall into temptation, why your Christian life is not improving, simple. You got a Zoar, remember. You got a little somewhere. Okay, verse 26. But his wife looked back from behind him. So the wife right here, she actually looked behind him, Lot. So she's in front of him. She looks behind him because she's thinking about, oh, you know, why did he have to leave and pack up and go away? He said that the Lord told him that this was not the place, and God had a different calling for him. Why do you do that? And there's that frustration, that uneasiness and tension, looking back and going, oh, my beautiful furniture, my beautiful home, you know, my beautiful tree.
I know it's hard for you to get out of your God box, Kim, but, you know, maybe she's thinking, oh my fucking God, I left my friends back there. Well, true, Selena, true. You people have to go to the darkest interpretation you can find. I don't understand that. You know? Maybe she was thinking, oh my God, my friends are back there. Not, oh my God, my lifestyle and my beautiful furniture is back there. What the fuck kind of person are you to just assume without evidence? But that's what Christianity's all about, isn't it? Assuming without evidence. All right, moving on.
The lawn, the garden, and the everything, and then all of a sudden, boom, the Lord struck her down too. You know why? This is a time of God's wrath. That's not a time to be sympathetic. It's a time to run. It's a time to run, Christians. We don't really understand that ourselves. Why? Because we're too spoiled in the age of grace that we're in. So we're under the age of grace. So living under that age of grace, we don't understand God's wrath, unfortunately. So then why did God strike her down too? Because she looked behind him. So she disobeyed God. What did God say? God pointed out that he wanted them to escape, and he wanted them to get away from the city. If you look at verse, let's see right here, verse 17, he says, escape for thy life, look not behind thee. See that? God made it clear, don't look behind you, all right? God made it clear, don't look back, take up your cross and follow me, right? And then because that one turn, it lost.
Yeah, and if that really happened, which it didn't, but if it happened, then God's an asshole. In fact, according to the Christian tradition, God's a bigger asshole than Satan is. And yeah, I'll say it again, Christians. God is a bigger asshole than Satan. Oh my God. I cannot. We're going to have to finish this up later. I will finish it. Believe me, I will finish it. But I don't know what to say. I have no idea what to say. These people have been so conditioned by their religion not to have compassion. I think those are the mountains and the quote unquote lava. Not that mountains would have lava in them. Yeah, he's not much of a geologist, is he? But anyway, but yeah. What kind of person would take pleasure in somebody else's agony? This is what Christianity does. It fucks with your mind so that there is no way you can be a compassionate person. It makes me sick that I used to believe this shit. It really, really does. It makes me sick. And it makes me sick that there are still people who believe this shit. That's why I have my channel. So that maybe people can understand, maybe people can see that the God they worship is a sick motherfucker. Long as someone's getting tormented, he's okay. He likes to smell burnt flesh, apparently. And this is your idea of a loving God? This is your idea of a loving God. If this is your idea of love, I don't even want to know what your idea of hate is. This is not love, people. This is hate of the highest degree. Anyway, I'm, yeah, I'm gonna go. I mean, what else do I need to say? So, if you like my channel, please subscribe if you're not subscribed already. If you want my debunks at least one day early, um, most of the time 2 days early, become a channel member. You can become a member for as low as 99 cents a month. And thank you to all my subscribers. I really love you. And I'll see you later. Ta ta for now.